Okay, because if you are not doing so, it will be of no usage. Okay, because it's actually not me who can teach you, it's you who has to learn. Now, um, moving ahead from here. All right, I'll yesterday I taught you the basics. Okay, that is how different drivers they work, the basics of Selenium, that is Edge driver, Internet Explorer driver, Chrome driver, Firefox driver. Okay. Now, what if I want to make a script, a single script, which will work on all the browsers? Okay, right. I want to write a script like this. I'll make a new Java project, call it day 2. Fine. And I'll create today's lecture will be more of like focusing on Java. Okay, right. And little bit of Selenium, not more of Selenium, but more of Java concepts like interface and all different things. All right. Um, Before I proceed, I'm sorry to interrupt in between like this. Yesterday, somebody had told you that, so somebody had asked me that, can you briefly give a little overview of how you will be going around in the training? Okay, what all systematically will you be covering? All right. Look, I have a brief thing. It's not exactly the way I cover stuff. Okay, right. I have a little Excel with me. Okay, I deviate from this Excel to be very honest. It's not the exact Excel which I follow, but yes, we will be doing something like concepts of object-oriented programming interface. Then we'll day one, day two. Each day represents 1 hour. Okay, this is actually for the weekday. Weekend is for 2 hours, right? So day one and day two is over. We have studied OOPS and all. We have not studied constructor, which I will tell you after covering interfaces. Okay, so gradually by day 4, 5, we will be starting off with object identification and XPaths and all. Then we will go to Selenium commands and all that stuff. After completing Selenium, we will see how to manage files and all, reading data from Excel file, properties file. Then we'll cover TestNG. Okay, and we'll discuss exercises. From day 6 or day 5, I will start giving you exercises, which we will be discussing as well. So that's how I go about in the training. Okay, and then half of this course will give to the framework development. Okay, in half of the timing we learn Java and Selenium, and then remaining half we do. Okay, so this is how I go about it. Fine. Now, talking about interfaces, I want to start with interfaces. Interfaces, they will help you to launch the browsers dynamically and write scripts which can work on any browser. Any browser. So I'll create a new interface over here. Okay. Now, what is an interface? How will it help us? Okay. For example, if you go to any place, okay, or if you visit any website, for example, if you visit our own website like qtpselenium.com, okay, then this website is like an interface. Okay, this website tells you that we are giving Selenium, Appium, UFT trainings and all. Okay, but how the training will be, okay, whether it is for you or not, okay, what will be the content and quality, you are really not sure about it. Okay, so this website is like an interface. It tells you that what this stuff is doing, what qtbselenium.com is doing. Okay. Or if you buy a book from a bookstore, you look at the cover face of the book. Okay. By looking at the cover face of the book, you come to know that fine, what this book is about. You get an idea. Okay. So that cover face is like the interface, but really by you don't know whether the book will be good or not when you actually buy it and read it. Okay. So similarly, we have interfaces in Selenium. Interfaces give you an idea about the system. Okay. For example, I'll create a new interface. Okay. And um, I'll call it musical instrument. So this is an interface, musical instrument. All right. So what a musical instrument is supposed to do, it can play public void, fine, public tune, need to tune it. All right. Then public void clean, something like this. Okay. In an interface, you can declare the function, but you cannot have the definitions. These you cannot have the function bodies. Okay. Interface is incomplete. It is technically it is abstract. Okay. So these functions they are not having any body inside the all right. So an interface is something which is abstract. It gives you an idea that fine what a musical instrument is supposed to do. Right. Now suppose I have the actual musical instrument like I'll create a new class known as guitar. Okay. Guitar is a musical instrument. Fine. So it will have the properties of playing, tuning, cleaning up or whatever it is. Okay. So what we do is that in Java, we write public class guitar implements the musical interface class. Okay, it implements the musical interface. Okay, and interface is always implemented. All right. If it's giving you an error, the error is coming up because if a class is implementing an interface, then that class is supposed to implement all the functions in the interface. Okay, if the guitar class is implementing the musical interface, then guitar class has to implement all the functions, right? So we move the mouse over this error, right? And hold on, I have this, hold on, there is some error in spelling. Error should not have come over here. Yeah, now it's fine. Actually, error should have come on the guitar class. If a class is implementing an interface, it is supposed to implement all the functions. If you move the mouse over the error, it will give you a resolution that add unimplemented methods. Okay, you click on this, then the three functions play, tune, and clean will go away from this guitar class. Okay, right. And see that all these three functions will go away from the guitar class. Okay, not go away in the sense they will come up in the guitar class. The errors will go away, right? And there is a sign over here known as at the rate override. The sign at the rate override means that this function is coming up from the interface. Even if I remove any one of the functions, if I remove one function, then you will get an error on guitar. Okay, if a class is implementing an interface, it is supposed to implement all the functions in the interface. All right. So it's not mandatory to write at the rate override sign. You can remove it. Okay. But it's for a layman. If a layman reads this code, he will come to know that this class, this function play is coming up from the musical instrument interface. Okay. Now, if I print in it system.out.print guitar playing, and over here guitar tuning, over here guitar clean. I have three statements out here in the function, right? Now, similarly, I can have one more class, for example, drum. Okay, drum is also a musical instrument. Fine. So I can write over here drum implement musical instrument. If a class is implementing an interface, then drum class will also have to implement all the three functions: play, tune, and clean. Okay, right. And I can write inside it drum playing, drum tuning, and drum. So I have got two different classes implementing one interface. Okay, all both the classes implement the same function. Both the classes have the same function names, but the implementation of the function are different. Okay, right. So basically what I did was I made an interface. This interface name is musical instrument. Okay, and this interface had functions like play, tune, and clean. Okay, and this sorry interface was implemented by two classes. All right, one class was guitar and the other one is drum. Right, and both the classes will have same function. All right, same functions will have different implementation in both the classes. So, what is the use of this interface? What is the use of musical instrument when both the classes could have been there without having the interface? I could have decided not to have the interface. I could have decided not to have this. I could have concretely made these two classes. Okay, the advantage is that tomorrow, if more instruments they come up, they will simply implement this interface, and they will also have same set of functions. So this gives a kind of discipline to the system. Okay, any layman, when he looks at your project, if he looks at just the interface, he will come to know that fine, these are the functions in the interface, and that means all these implementing classes like guitar, drum, and other classes will have the same set of functions. So the use of interface is that it gives same name, same function names in the implementing classes. Okay. There is another usage which I will talk about it in some time. Okay, not now, and in some time I'll talk about. Right. Now, if any particular class, for example, uh, guitar class wants to have one more function, for example, public void change string. So this can be there. Okay, this is a proprietary function of guitar class, which is something like a private to guitar, right? That you can change the strings. So you can have more functions in the class apart from the functions coming up from the interface, but all the functions in the interface must be implemented. Okay, right? I hope you have got my point. Fine. Now, if I create another class, hold on, I'll create another class known as client, the main function. Over here, I will start creating the objects, right? I'll start creating objects. Fine, I'll create the object of musical instrument interface. Hold on, my Eclipse has hanged. Just a minute, right? I'll create the object of musical instrument class. So I'll get an error. I get this error because you cannot create objects of an interface. Interface is abstract. It is incomplete. It just having the declaration of the functions, no definitions. So it doesn't make sense to actually create the objects of an interface. Okay, yesterday when we had created objects, I had created a concrete class, like I created the class fruit, which had few variables and functions defined, and I was able to create the object of this class. But interface is not something which is complete. All right, but yes, you can surely create an object reference which will use sometime or an interface. You can create the objects of the implementing classes. I can create the objects of guitar, okay, and I can call the function play, tune, clean, and change string. These are the all functions in the guitar class. The first three are coming up from the interface. I can also create the function object of drum. Okay, drum dot play. Okay, right. So when you run this code, see that it gives you an output that guitar playing, guitar tuning, guitar cleaning. Okay, so it gives you a proper output. Okay, right. So this is how stuff works. Fine. Now this is simple. Okay, that is you create a object and create the object of drum, or you create the object of guitar, right? And then you can call the respective functions and all. All right, fine. Now, moving ahead, look, I'm I'll do something which is little different now. Okay, till now I have created the object like the reference of the class equals to the object of the class. Now I will take the reference of the interface. We can have the reference of the interface created. Equate it to the class which is implementing the interface. Drum class is implementing the interface. So what I am doing is I am interface reference equals to the object of implementing class. Okay, interface reference is equated to the object of implementing class. How is this line different than this? If you create the object like this, then you can access the functions which are there in this class coming from interface. Okay, hold on. I'll create the object of guitar. This would be a better thing. Instead of drum, the class guitar. Okay, so I with M1, I can call the play function tune and green, but I cannot call the change string function. It will give me an error. Create the object like this, you have the access to limited functions in the class, the functions which are coming up from the interface. If you create the object like this, you have access to all the functions. So what is the difference between creating the object like this and creating the object like this? What is the difference between both these things? All right. So the difference is, yeah, the difference is, I'll tell you, it's not a difference, it's an advantage to create the object like this. The advantage is, tomorrow if I want, I can create another object M2 and point it towards drum as well. And when I call the functions of M2, say M2 dot play, okay, I'll put a demarcating line, right? And when I run this code, it will print a drum playing in the end. Now I can, in the next line, I can make M2 point towards the object of guitar class, and I will write M2 dot play. So this will call the play function in guitar. This will call the play function in drum. When you run this, okay, it prints drum playing and guitar playing. The command is same, M2 dot play and M2 dot play. M2 was pointing towards drum here, it was pointing towards guitar here. So reference of one interface can keep on moving it across the implementing class, the objects of implementing class. Okay, right. I can declare like this, that is musical instrument M3 is equal to null. Okay, that means M3 is actually not pointing anywhere. And based on my choice, I can make M3 point towards object of guitar class, or I can make M3 point towards object of uh, drum class. Completely up to you. Fine. Anyone with any questions? What is the use of this? How will we use this in Selenium? Okay, we will talk about it later on. This can be used when you have opened the browsers dynamically. If you have to write a script which can work on any browser, then we write the code using these fundamentals. So the other advantage of interface is that you can have the interface reference pointing point towards object of any implementing class. Any implementing class object. Okay, you can have the interface reference point towards that, and you can call the functions which are there in the interface and in the class and call those. All right, we'll come over to this. This is the use of interface. Okay, anybody with any questions? All right, now you can also declare a variable over here in interface. Okay, any variable declared in interface is by default static in nature. By default, it is static. To access the variable, you can access it directly by the interface name. It is by default static. Static stuff can be called directly by with the name, right? Okay. But you cannot change the value. Okay. By default, the value is fixed. It is known as final. By default, value is finalized. You cannot change the value of the variable. Okay. Right. Fine. Now this was about interfaces. This was about little bit of object-oriented programming, which I discussed yesterday. Static, non-static. Okay. Now there are two, three more fundamentals which I need to discuss today. Okay. First is the concept of constructor in Java. It is really important. Okay. Another is the concept of exception handling, which also I will discuss today. Okay. Because without these concepts, I cannot just directly jump over to any. All right. Now, what is a constructor? Suppose I have a class and I have the class with the name. Say, now, every company which is there has a name, has employee, friend. Okay. Every company has a registered address. There are different parameters in the company class. Okay. And I'll create a new class known as client company. In this, I will create the main function. Inside the main function, I will create the object of the company. All right. And then I can call the function in the company class. All right. Or I can initialize the variables in the company class. I can write over here c1 dot name of the company. A C1 dot employee strength 100, C1 dot registered address is some address. Okay, right. I can create another object if you want and initialize the parameters of those objects. Right. Now, what if I have to create 20 objects of this class? For creating 20 objects, every object I have to write 3 lines. So I'll have to write 60 lines just to initiate 20 objects. What if this company had more parameters? Instead of 3, it has say 40 parameters, 40, or even 10. Then our work becomes too complicated. Over here, constructor comes into play. Okay, so constructor, what it does is the only thing about constructor is it helps you in object initialization. The constructor will help you in object initialization. All right, fine. Now, if I write like this, public, then this is the constructor. This is known as the default constructor of the class company. In constructor, the name of the constructor is same as the name of the class. You can declare it anywhere. You can declare it over here as well. It is not a function. It's got no return type, nothing. Okay, the name of the class is same as name of the constructor. You can have a function in a class like public void start work. This is a function. It's got a return type void, but a constructor is will never have a return type. Inside it, I will write inside constructor. When is the constructor called? How it is called? All right. If I run this code, the one which I have made, I have created two objects of the company class. Okay. If I run this, it prints inside constructor 2 times. Okay. It prints inside constructor 2 times. Constructor will always be called when you create the object of the class. When you create the object of the class, the constructor of that class will be called. If I create another object, I create 3 more objects, you will see that constructor will be called 3 more times, 5 times over here. So constructor by default is called at the time of object initialization. When they create the object, by default constructor is called. Inside it, if I write name is Z, employee strength is 100, and registered address is some address. Then by default, when you create a company, the name, employee strength, and registered address will be, if I print this thing, if I print one dot name C1 dot employee strength and C1 dot registered address. Before actually changing them, okay, I print them. So by default, it will print Z100 and the address. Okay, so this constructor is giving a default value to these three parameters. Okay, however, out here I am changing the value. So if I print over here, it will print the updated value. So a constructor is something which can initialize the default object if you are calling the default constructor. Okay, now you can also have a different constructor like this, which accepts the name, the employee strength, and the registered address. You can create the object of the class like this. I'll put a demarcating line. Okay, company equals to new company. And I can over here, when I call the when I create the object, I will call this constructor. Pass it name, employee strength, and the registered address in one go. Okay, I can call it like C employee strength, registered address or something. So this constructor, sorry, string name and int employee. This constructor will take in three parameters and will initialize the object. You can write name equals to n. The variables which you have declared in this class, you can initialize them. These variables are being passed into the parameters n, e, and r, and you can initialize the object. So this way you don't have to write three lines like this. You can print dot name, dot employee strength, c dot registered address. When you run this code, it prints these values. Okay. If you have any questions, you can let me know. All right. Fine. Now, if I give the parameter name like, so hold on. This is known as a default constructor. Okay. And this constructor is known as overloaded constructor. You have overloaded this. Name is same, but number of input parameters are different. This is known as overloading in Java. For example, this function is there start work. I make one more function with same name, public void start work, and you pass the time into. So these two functions are overloaded functions. The name is same, but the parameters are different. This is known as overloading. Okay, this is function overloading which is happening. And over here, constructor overloading is happening. Okay, these are just technical terms which I am trying to tell you. Okay, now if you have any questions, you can let me know. Right. Now, if I declare, hold on, if I declare this and if I, or if I write over here string name and in employee string and string the address, right? So I have declared the names of these three variables same as these. Okay. If I replace them over here, then what I'm trying to tell Java is that on the left hand side name, this name is actually the name on the top and the right name is this name. I'm trying to tell Java this thing. Okay, it's giving me a warning as well. All right. And when I run this, it prints null, zero, and null. So it did not initialize the C3.name, employee strength, and registered address which you was passing. Okay, right. All right. Now, what? How do I solve this problem? Okay, solve this problem. We use the parameter this dot name, this dot employee string, this dot registered address. This represents the current object. Always remember, this will always. It's a reserved keyword. The color is red, maroon. This keyword will always represent the current object. Okay, this dot name. So equals to name means this global variable. Okay, this dot employee strength, this dot registered address. All right, fine. So that's how it works. If you have any questions, you can let me know. So now it will work. See that? So this will represent the current object, the global variable equated to the local. You will see this kind of code at times in Java. All right. So this is about constructors. Constructors are some things which help you to initialize the object. Okay. Constructor will help you to initialize the object. All right. So now the next thing is the concept of exception handling. Okay. Java. So I taught you interfaces. I taught you about constructors. Now exception handling. Fine. Let's just break for 5 minutes. Let's just yeah. Hello everyone. Fine. Sorry, I got a little late. Fine. I'll just share my. Okay, fine, everybody. I got a little late. Sorry, I shared my screen. Now, talking about exception. Now, suppose you are writing automation script. Fine, and the script runs for 4 hours, and suddenly in between some error comes up, It had to run for 4 hours, but on the second hour, some error comes up and it abruptly stops. You'd never want that. Suppose there are 10 test cases to be automated. On the fourth test case, something went wrong. So, what will you do? If something goes wrong on the fourth test case, you don't want the program to just stop. You want the third one to execute and then the fifth one, right? Maybe fourth one can be reported as a failure, right? Third one to execute, then fourth one failure, and then the fifth one should continue, sixth, seventh. It should go like that, but the flow should not stop. So that is why we have exception handling in Java. Okay. And if there is an error in the test case, it should be reported properly. Okay, with proper parameters and all. So in Java, we have exception handling, which helps us to do this. Fine. I'll take up a very simple example and explain you. Okay. If I write over here system.out.println A and B, in between I write int I equals to 100 divided by 5. If I run this, it's obviously going to print A and B. But if I write 100 by 0, okay, this is going to give you a problem. If I run this, it prints arithmetic exception divided by 0. Okay, it prints A, but it's not printing B. The code stops on this particular line. Okay, right. The code stops on this line. Okay, now how you can make the code not to stop? Okay, right. It prints A, but it should also print B, and meanwhile, it should report the exception as well. This is the exception. It tells you the line number on which the exception happened. It's on the line number 6. Okay, fine. Now, to handle this, we have the concept of try catch block. I will write a try block like this and a catch block. Catch the exception. Exception is an internal class in Java. Okay, right, fine. So this class, the object of this class is automatically created when the exception happens. Hold on, I'll just start from basics. I'll print some error over here. And when I run this code, you see that it prints A, some error, and B. It's printing A, some error, and B. That means it's going in this exception catch block. If anything goes wrong in the try block, the control will always go into the catch block. If nothing goes wrong, it will continue. If I write 100 by 2 and if I run this will only print A and B. Okay, it will only print A and B. Okay, guys, give me 1 minute. I will be back. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, just a minute. So it's not printing some error over here. That means the control is not going to the catch block. Okay, there's a question being asked. In case we know where exception exists, but other scenarios. Yeah, I will talk about that. I will tell you, Seema. In the project, you will come to make it in such a way that you should be able to catch it. Fine. You can have multiple statements in try block. I can call it as Z1 and Z2. When you run this, print A, Z1, Z2, and B. Fine. And if there is an exception, if there is something which goes wrong, it will print A, Z1, some error, and B. The line on which exception comes up. Okay, the lines after that line will not be executed in the try block. The control will come on the catch block and it will continue forward. So we use this concept to manage some error scenarios or something. Okay, right. In the catch block, we can actually do the failure reporting. When we write the script, we have reports which get generated. In the reports, we can mark the test case as a failure. And maybe we can write some script to take the screenshot of the page as well and put it in the reports. Okay, right. So this is what exception handling is. All right. Another important thing in Java which is required is debugging. Okay. Debugging is like executing the program line by line. All right. So that you end up finding where the fault is or checking the status of the variables and all. Hold on, I'll tell you. I'll create a new class known as debugging example. Look, I'm forming the basics today, the basics which will be very helpful in the coming classes. Okay, so I just don't want to jump over to the stuff. Right now, over here, um, I will write system.out.println start. Then I'll write int I equals to 100, int j equals to 200, int k equals to 100 plus I minus j. Okay, then I will print the value of I, j, and k. Okay, then I can write a for loop for int x equals to 0, x less than 10, x plus plus, and system.out.println x multiplied by I. All right, or x multiplied by k, whatever it is. So when I run this code, this is a random some stuff I have written. I get an output like this. Value of k is 0. Hold on. I'll put 3. And now see that you get this thing. The value of I is 100, j is 300, and k is minus 100, and this is the output of the loop. Now you can also run this program line by line, check the status of running the program, check the status of every line. Fine. You can run the whole program line by line. I can put breakpoints, I can debug this program. If I double click in front of any line, I will get a blue mark. This blue mark is technically known as a breakpoint. Fine. I'll double click in front of this line and form a breakpoint over here. When you by breakpoint, I mean that the code, the execution will stop on this line when I will debug this program. There is a small debug icon on the top. Debugging means line by line execution of program. Okay, this is the debug icon. You click on this and the control will give you this window, and this is the debug perspective which will open up in Eclipse. This kind of window opens up in Eclipse, and this line is green in color. On the debug point, the control has stopped. The control has stopped on this debug. Okay, the program is stopping and you can, or pausing, not stopping, it's paused on this line. If you hit F6 of the keyboard, then this line will be executed and you will be having start word over here printed. If you hit F6 again, the value of I will be 100. You can move your mouse over I and you can check the runtime value of I. The runtime value of I will also be there under the variables section over here. Okay, fine. And you can hit F6 again. J will also come up to 300. Okay. If you hit F6 again, then K will also come up as minus 100. So this is how it runs. And you can keep on hitting F6 again and again, and this code will present you the output. Okay. You see that X is initialized to 0. If you run this loop, you will see that X increasing with time. Right. You can check the status of every variable by moving the mouse. So it helps you a lot when the script goes wrong. Something wrong happens in the script. You can debug the script this way. If you hit F8 of the keyboard, this will run normally and end. Okay. So F6 will run line by line and F8 will run it normally. Okay, you can have a breakpoint like this. You can have multiple breakpoints. I can put a breakpoint on this line, then I can put a breakpoint on the other line as well. If I run in the debug mode, the control will stop on this line. If you hit F6, then this line will be executed. And if you hit F8, then it will run normally and stop on the next breakpoint. Okay, it will stop on the next breakpoint. So you can keep on hitting F6 or F8, whatever you want. Fine. If you have any question, this is what debugging is. When something goes wrong, right, then this debugging helps us a lot. because when you write complex scripts and all, right, it's quite tough. Okay, so, okay. Now moving ahead, I think debugging is done, client is done, client. Okay. If anybody has any questions, you can let me know. Yes. Yeah, if the exception happens on this line, then this will not run. If exception comes up, then there is no way this line will be excluded. You cannot just do anything. This line will be. There's another question being asked. Interface is not clear. Okay. I know interface will give you an issue because it's something very new and it's something off the track as well, not so simple. But when you watch the video, you will get it clear. When you look, that's why I tell you it's very important for you guys to write the same programs at this stage, whatever I'm writing. Okay, I'm not in a hurry, I'm not in anything like fine, we have to finish these topics or something. I don't work like that. Okay. But whatever I'm training you on, just write those programs. Don't focus on doing exercises or something. The concepts will be clear to you. Classes, they implement the interface. The classes will have same names as the interface function names. Okay. And you can create the objects of those classes and work with them. Or you can create the object with the reference of the interface equated to the object of the class. Okay, this way, like I told you, you can have one interface reference pointing towards different objects. You cannot do this with the object of the class. M3 same, right? Pardon? That's what, when you learn Selenium, you will come to know. Same reference can be pointed towards objects of different classes. Okay. Yes, yes. The usage of this I'm going to cover in Selenium. Okay, it's not just the end. All these things, whatever I've taught you, the usage of all exception handling, constructors, interfaces, I'm going to tell you the usage of all these things in Selenium. Okay, so all right, I think I will stop here.